There's a moment that comes to all of us, a moment when we look back and see our lives with perfect clarity. For Robert, that moment came at 63 years old, sitting alone in his corner office on a Tuesday evening. The building was empty. The city lights flickered below, and he realized he'd spent 40 years climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. What he discovered that night changed everything. And if you're watching this, there's a good chance you're making the exact same mistake he made. But here's the thing, you still have time. Robert didn't figure this out until 63, but you're hearing this story today. That gives you an advantage he never had. So what was this devastating realization? What did Robert finally understand after 4 decades of relentless work, sacrifice, and achievement? Stay with me, because this isn't just his story. This is a mirror, and what you see reflected back might just save you from decades of regret. Robert Chen immigrated to America at 23 with $200 in his pocket and a degree in engineering. He had the classic dream: work hard, build a career, provide for his family, and create a better life than the one he left behind. And by every conventional measure, he succeeded spectacularly. He landed a job at a prestigious firm. Within 5 years, he was managing projects. Within 10, he was directing entire divisions. His salary grew exponentially. He bought a house in the suburbs, then a bigger house in a better suburb. 2 cars became 3. Vacations became more exotic. His children attended private schools. People looked at Robert and saw success. His parents back home beamed with pride. His colleagues respected him. His neighbors envied him. He was living the dream, right? But here's what nobody saw. Here's what Robert himself didn't see until that quiet Tuesday evening at 63. His daughter was now 31. He'd missed her childhood. Oh, he was there physically sometimes. Weekend mornings when he wasn't catching up on work, holiday dinners between conference calls. But he'd missed the real moments, the daily conversations, the small confidences, the chance to actually know her as she grew up. She was polite to him now, kind even. But they were strangers bound by biology and obligation. She called her mother when something important happened in her life. Robert found out later, through summarized updates delivered like news briefings. His son was 28. They spoke maybe once a month, conversations that lasted 7 minutes and covered nothing deeper than weather and work. Robert had taught him to value achievement above all else, and his son had learned the lesson well. He was busy climbing his own ladder, making his own money, chasing his own version of success. The cycle continued. Robert's marriage had become a business partnership. He and Linda managed household logistics. They coordinated calendars. They made financial decisions together. But when was the last time they'd really talked? When was the last time they'd laughed together about something silly? When was the last time he'd asked her about her dreams, her fears, her inner life? He couldn't remember. That Tuesday evening, Robert had stayed late to finish a presentation for the board meeting. It was important. It was always important. As he sat there, perfecting slides that would be forgotten within a week, his phone buzzed. A message from Linda. "Don't forget, Emma's birthday dinner tomorrow at 7. Emma, his daughter, 31 years old tomorrow. And Robert realized he'd forgotten. Again. Not just to buy a gift, though he'd do that on the way home. He'd forgotten who she was, what made her laugh, what kept her up at night, whether she was happy. He opened his desk drawer looking for a pen and found something he'd forgotten about. A Father's Day card from Emma, given to him when she was maybe 8 or 9 years old. The handwriting was careful and crooked. "Dear Daddy, you are the best daddy in the world. I love when we play together. Love, Emma." When we play together. Robert tried to remember the last time he'd played with his daughter. Really played. Not structured activities or expensive outings designed to create memories. Just spontaneous, silly, present play. He couldn't find the memory. It was gone, buried under decades of meetings and deadlines and quarterly reports. And then the realization hit him like a physical blow. He'd spent 40 years building a life he was too busy to live. He'd worked all those hours to provide for his family, but in doing so, he'd removed himself from the family. He was the funding source, not the father. The wallet, not the husband. He'd given them everything except the one thing they actually wanted: him. And now it was too late. Not too late to change, perhaps, but too late to get back those years. Too late to know his children as children. Too late to build the foundation of intimacy that makes adult relationships rich and meaningful. Robert's mistake wasn't working hard. It wasn't ambition. It wasn't wanting to provide. His mistake was believing that providing was the same as being present. That success at work could substitute for success at home. That someday, when he had enough money or status or security, then he'd focus on relationships. Then he'd be the father and husband he always meant to be. But someday never comes. It just keeps getting pushed further into the future until one day you're 63, and the future is now the past, and you can't get it back. Here's what makes Robert's story even more tragic. He's not unique. Walk into any corporate office, any law firm, any hospital, any business in any city, and you'll find hundreds of Roberts. Thousands. People who've made the same trade. People who keep telling themselves that this sacrifice is temporary, that things will slow down soon, that they'll make up for lost time later. But time doesn't work that way. You can't save it up. You can't bank it for later. You can only spend it, and once it's gone forever. Robert thought about his own father, who worked himself to death at 60. He'd promised himself he'd be different. He'd be more successful so he could give his children more. But in trying not to repeat his father's mistake, he'd made the exact same one in a different form. Different job, different country, same absence. That night, Robert went home and really looked at his house. The house he'd bought to impress, to show he'd made it. 5 bedrooms for 3 people who barely spoke. A gourmet kitchen that mostly heated takeout. A living room so pristine it felt like a museum. This wasn't a home, it was a monument to misplaced priorities. At 63, Robert finally understood something that should have been obvious all along. The measure of a life well lived isn't your title or your salary or the square footage of your house. It's the depth of your relationships. It's whether the people you love feel loved by you. It's whether you were present for the moments that mattered. And here's the part that might be hard to hear. If you're watching this and feeling uncomfortable, that discomfort is trying to tell you something. Maybe you're making Robert's mistake right now. Maybe you're telling yourself the same stories he told himself. Just a few more years. Just until this project is done. Just until we have a little more saved. Just until things settle down. Things never settle down. Life doesn't pause and wait for you to be ready. Your children grow up whether you're paying attention or not. Your relationships deepen or deteriorate based on the attention you give them, not the intentions you have. Robert couldn't get his years back, but you can save yours. You can make different choices. You can decide that presence matters more than productivity, that relationships matter more than recognition, that being there matters more than getting ahead. This doesn't mean you shouldn't work hard. It doesn't mean ambition is wrong. It means you need to be honest about the trade-offs. Every hour you spend at work is an hour you don't spend somewhere else. Every evening meeting is an evening you're not at the dinner table. Every weekend at the office is a weekend you're not building memories with people you love. And you have to ask yourself, what are you really working for? If it's to provide for your family, but providing means you're never actually with your family, then who are you really doing this for? Robert started making changes at 63. Better late than never, right? He scaled back his hours. He retired earlier than planned. He started showing up differently for Linda, for Emma, for his son Michael. It helped. Things got better. But they never got back what was lost. Emma was kind to him, but she'd learned to live without a real father, and that pattern was set. Michael respected him, but didn't really know him. Linda loved him, but they'd spent so many years as roommates that becoming partners again required learning each other from scratch. Robert's story doesn't have a tragic ending. He's building something better now, but it does have a tragic middle. 40 years he can't reclaim. Thousands of moments he can't retrieve. A relationship with his children that has to be built now as adults because the foundation was never laid when they were young. So here's my question for you. What ladder are you climbing? And more importantly, where is it leaning? Are you building the life you actually want, or are you building the life you think you're supposed to want? Because here's the truth Robert learned too late. On your deathbed, you won't wish you'd spent more time at the office. You won't wish you'd made more money or gotten one more promotion. You'll wish you'd been brave enough to live the life that was true to yourself, not the life others expected of you. You'll wish you'd spent more time with people you love. You'll wish you'd been present for the small moments that turned out to be the big moments. You still have time. That's the gift of hearing Robert's story now instead of living it yourself later. You can make different choices. You can set different priorities. You can decide that your life is more important than your resume. It won't be easy. The world will pressure you to keep grinding, to keep sacrificing, to keep postponing the life you want for the success you think you need. But you have to be stronger than that pressure. You have to be wiser than Robert was at 23, at 33, at 43. Don't wait until you're 63 to realize what actually matters. Don't spend 40 years climbing only to discover you've reached the top of the wrong mountain. Learn from Robert's mistake. Choose presence over productivity. Choose relationships over recognition. Choose a life well lived over a resume well built. Because in the end, success isn't about what you accomplish. It's about who you become and how you love the people around you. Everything else is just noise. If this video resonated with you, if Robert's story made you think about your own life and your own choices, do me a favor. Subscribe to my channel. Not because I need the numbers, but because if this message matters to you, there are probably other people in your life who need to hear it too. Share it with someone who's working too hard, sacrificing too much, postponing their real life for some imagined future. Help me spread this message so fewer people make Robert's mistake. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let's build a community of people who are brave enough to live intentionally, to choose what matters, and to build lives they don't need to escape from. I'll see you in the next video.